All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to DataHub Turns 5. We are so excited to have you all here today. This milestone wouldn't be possible without your passion, contributions, and belief in the power of metadata. So today we're celebrating 5 incredible years of DataHub, but that's not all. This event is also about looking ahead too. And we're very excited to officially announce DataHub 1.0 and share all the incredible features that will take DataHub to the next level. And because no birthday celebration is complete without some surprises, make sure you stay tuned to find out how you can redeem some exclusive limited edition DataHub 5th birthday swag at the end. So you will see a few polls and links pop up along the way, so please feel free to participate. And if you have any questions, leverage the Q&A and our team will get back to you there. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee or a slice of cake if you have some, and let's celebrate you, the community, and the bright future of DataHub together. So first, we're going to dive in and kick things off with a short video.
DataHub is an important component of our infrastructure.
My excitement about this tool is like literally contagious. I adore this. It is, to me, just mind-blowingly good.
We were able to smoothly migrate onto DataHub and turned off our in-house Lineage tool to consolidate all of our data discovery efforts into DataHub.
We find the DataHub best fit our requirement. Also, thanks to DataHub extendability, we extend the DataHub model to support our data element.
Hello, DataHub community. It is so exciting to be here. That video was great. I was just reliving an amazing journey so far. But honestly, it only captures just a sliver of that history. The project has been shaped by so many amazing contributors, many of whom are in the audience today. Can you believe it? I've been in open source for such a long time, And very few projects really get to this level of adoption and maturity. So super thankful and grateful to be building this with you all. 1.0 is a huge milestone for us, and it reflects the maturity of the project and the community. From a small project started back when I was at LinkedIn to now powering 3,000 plus companies around the world. It feels like we've accomplished so much, but also in many ways it feels like day one, because we're just at the beginning, at the cusp of what this project can do. I was doing some GitHub analytics just the night before, of course, and noticed that since 2020, the total number of commits into the repository is more than 8,000. So more than 8,000 commits. And now this may be wrong, this metric may be wrong. I was really suspicious when I found out. But looks like the number of net new lines of code, so added, subtracted, net new lines of code into the project is more than 2 million. So that's just a sense of like how big this project is and how fast it moves. So it's been a great journey, but really let's take a quick look into what DataHub is and what problems it was really built to solve before talking about the evolution of where it will go next. So on the next slide, we have a quick introduction to the problems that we were created for. First, there's a lot of tools and a lot of complexity, and the data supply chain tends to be quite complex. And that leads to confusion. Confusion for humans, for example, data consumers, who are saying, hey, how do I find stuff? How do I understand what's trustworthy? How do I understand discrepancies? Or it could be data engineers who are trying to run a tight shop and make sure their pipelines are humming along or execute changes with confidence. Or it could be the governance team who's trying to make sure that they're able to track where data is living, where it's being accessed, and making sure that they're compliant with all the promises that they've made to their stakeholders. But that's just humans. There's also machines that have those same questions. So for example, on the next slide, we see AI bots and data automations, as well as AI governance tools who in the future are going to be asking similar questions about the data. What new data should I be using to refresh my predictions? Where is the latest and trusted enterprise content that I can use to produce a new response? Or if you think about data management automation, how do I take a look at what data needs to be examined for anomalies? How can I perform automated impact analysis before deploying a change to production? And if you look forward to AI governance, answering questions like, what version of this data was used for this particular model? And which AI models have access to PII data? These are not questions humans are asking. These are questions machines are asking. And DataHub was really born out of the desire to solve all of these problems that all these different personas have that make the data stack super complex and hard to understand, and to really simplify that problem for both humans and machines. And as we talk about these problems and where we've come, I'd like to take a moment to think about where we are going next. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about something related to what we have built to get here so far. And to do that, I'd like to bring on stage someone who's been a core part of this journey for the past 4 years, co-founder and CEO of Acryl Data, Swaroop Jagdish.
Hey everyone, so excited about this milestone. I led data platform at Airbnb prior to starting Acryl. We started the company with a mission of making every organization's data ready for AI and analytics. And of course, DataHub is at the center of it.
Swaroop, I'd love to hear from you what you're seeing in the market and where you think the world is headed.
Certainly. The way I see it, there's a fundamental shift happening right now in how organizations work with data. The old world was built around human-centric workflows. For example, data scientists browsing catalogs, analysts checking lineage, and the compliance team doing manual audits when the regulators come knocking. But what we are seeing now is companies like Apple, Optum, Visa, they're doing something entirely different. AI systems now need to autonomously discover and interact with data in real time, almost like an air traffic control system for data. So we've moved from static documentation to dynamic systems that coordinate data flows and enforce governance at machine speed. And of course, DataHub's architecture, which our community has helped shape, was built exactly for this transition.
That's super cool. And in fact, as I think about what you just said, and I think about that in terms of DataHub's architecture's own evolution, we started as a metadata platform. Our goal was collect all this technical metadata, put it all in one place, make it easy to understand and store, index, etc. And then we evolved towards control plane use cases, enabling things to propagate from one system to another and making things happen. And as we look towards the future, we see DataHub enabling a world where AI models are automatically validating training data sets, and systems are dynamically adjusting pipelines based on quality signals, and governance is being enforced automatically across thousands of AI models. This used to be somewhat of a pipe dream, I would say, 4 years ago, but it definitely seems a hell lot more approachable now than it seemed even 6 months ago. And what has felt remarkable to me is that DataHub's architecture, which has been shaped a lot by our community and also by our experiences at our various companies, was built for exactly this transition. The event-driven design, the API first, the API backbone, our schema-first approach, they weren't just accidental choices. They were built for a world where metadata management needs to work at both human and machine scale. And that's been a pretty cool part about seeing, as a builder, as a technical architect, seeing kind of the core of the platform stay pretty much constant while we've managed to build interesting and hard problems and solve hard outcomes for the business with it.
And of course, since the day we started Acrel, we've remained deeply committed to our open source roots. We've grown together from 250 people in our community Slack to over 12,000 practitioners now. And many of our team members also came from the contributor community. So when Netflix talks about extensibility, or when Visa talks about our API backbone, that's the direct result of the community's input and contributions. Your feedback has also guided how we built DataHub Cloud, our enterprise offering, by taking the learnings from the open source community to build enterprise capabilities that complement the core platform. So the virtuous cycle of the community adoption driving innovation is at the foundation of how we operate, and we will continue to operate that way. So we are significantly expanding our investment in community through enhanced developer tooling, dedicated community engineering resources, and expanding the technical content to support the entire community and support the growing needs of our users.
And that's why I'm delighted, because I heard through the grapevine that Acrel is offering a free DataHub health check. And that's a super cool thing for the community to take advantage of. As part of our community outreach and support, we talk to a lot of folks, and we routinely find folks that need help. Perhaps they have a poorly tuned DataHub instance, or they're stuck on a fork, or they just don't know how to take the next step in their adoption journey, and we'd like to help. So please feel free to take advantage of this opportunity to get our advice and help us help you get to success with DataHub. With that, I'd love to hand it back over to Rose.
Thank you. Yep. So a lot of exciting things going on and a lot more to come. I am going to go ahead and hand it over to some folks that you probably already know, John Joyce on our one of our co-founders, and also Maggie, our who has spearheaded the community activities for many a year. So over to you two.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm John, co-founder and product lead here at Ackrel, and I'm really excited to walk you guys through what's in store for the 1.0 release of DataHub alongside my co-founder, Shashanka. There's a lot to get into, but let's get right into it. The first thing we are going to talk about is a completely redesigned DataHub user experience. We kicked this off over a year ago, and we really had two things in mind. One, making DataHub more approachable to everyone inside the organization, not just the folks working with data on a day-to-day basis. And then two, reducing the friction and increasing the usability of all DataHub surface areas. So I'll start with the homepage, where we focused on getting users back into the place that they left off by showing them recently viewed assets, things that they own, maybe metadata they own and care about, and finally giving them a way to explore all of the most trustworthy data within the organization. We also redid the navigation experience from the ground up to give admins and end users a way to understand what DataHub can do for them quickly. Next, we worked on the search experience, and I'm going to highlight two specific things we worked on. The first is a redesigned browse sidebar, which allows data analysts and data scientists to browse data as they would find it in platforms like Snowflake, BigQuery, Looker, Redshift, and more. What's really powerful about this is you can combine this filtering with the rich business context in DataHub, filters like domain, glossary term, tag, and data ownership. We also focused on bringing more context into the search experience so that you can find trustworthy assets without having to leave the search results page. So what you'll see here is a profile sidebar preview that allows you to understand more context about the data before you dive deeper. Next on deck is Lineage, one of the most popular features of DataHub. With the Lineage redesigned, we focused on usability and rich context. We added controls like multi-level expansion in a single click, pagination so that we don't just expand everything in your downstream lineage, and then search by name so you can find the right assets on the lineage graph quickly. We also added a column level lineage view so you can understand where a single column comes from and where it's going in the same sort of graphical interface. Next, we focused on data quality, specifically bringing data quality to every surface area within DataHub. The homepage, the search results, the lineage view, the profile. We even allow you to quickly understand whether an input or an upstream data asset has data quality problems using the lineage sidebar that's shown right here. So this is just a quick preview of some of the highlights of the 1.0 UI. I'm really excited to get this in the hands of users and start getting feedback. And I'm happy to announce that this is already available via DataHub Docker Quick Start today. All you have to do to turn on the user experience is navigate to Settings, Appearance, and then try New User Experience. I'm really, really excited, and I want to pause and just give a huge shout out to the entire Ackrel team that made this happen and all of our early customer design partners that worked with us on the new UI. If you want to learn more about the UI, you can check out the blog post that I posted on Medium, and you can also try out the demo today at demo.datahubproject.io. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Shashanka to walk us through some of the other exciting parts of the 1.0 release.
Well, it's hard to top that one. I mean, the UI is what people love and they enjoy. But you know what? That was not just it. I'm excited to share two major new developments that are also landing in DataHub 1.0. And that's really going to transform how we work with AI and data. First, as you saw, we've completely reimagined search in DataHub, and you can now seamlessly search across all your AI and data assets in one place. So with the same search interface, you can look for models, data sets, or model groups. Everything is right at your fingertips. And on the next slide, you'll find that one of our most requested features is here, comprehensive versioning for both data and AI assets. So you can now register and link multiple versions of the same dataset and ML model with easy to track changes across all these versions. And if you're an ML practitioner, you can add detailed tracking for model versions as well. So it helps you understand when you're discovering a model or a model group, understand which model versions are interesting and why. You can see creation dates, metadata, version tags, and even track deprecated versions. And of course, Lineage is getting even more powerful. We're adding support for models into the Lineage graph as well. So you can see end-to-end lineage tracking across your data and AI assets. And you can finally trace the journey all the way from your input data, all the way upstream, or even further upstream from your warehouse, through to your trained models with version awareness at each step, timestamps, all that jazz. And of course, if you're an ML practitioner and you want to deep dive, we are adding detailed model statistics as well. You can dig deep into metrics, understand performance changes, track improvements across versions, and you can see where to focus on as you try to understand the performance of a model better. And these changes are going to be dropped into the 1.0 release over time. And of course, everything is API first, like everything with DataHub. So you can seamlessly integrate with your AI toolchain. And we made it super easy to log and track every AI asset. We also have, of course, integrations with all of your popular AI systems like SageMaker and MLflow, and there's more to come. And that's the AI track. And then we started thinking, well, is that good enough for 1.0? I mean, it's nice, but what could make DataHub even cooler? And we found it. So we're thrilled to announce support for the Iceberg REST catalog as part of 1.0 release as well. This is launching in beta as part of 1.0. And you might be asking why. Why did you guys do it? Not just because it's cool. We actually looked at the latest OneHouse report. You probably saw it. They compared all of the leading data catalog solutions out there and said, you know what? DataHub looks amazing. And then a lot of smart people started talking and they started saying things like, you know what would be even cooler? If DataHub also added support for Iceberg. So we're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's actually add these capabilities. But we didn't just do it to be cool. We did it because it's also useful. A lot of our customers said this would be useful. It really brings three major benefits. First of all, you get real-time insights across your entire data stack, unified access management that's driven by business metadata. So you can have a single place to declare and manage all your policies for Iceberg tables driven by the business glossary or tags or domains. And that's pretty cool. And then finally, as this one person who engaged with our feature request on GitHub beautifully said, one less catalog to run and maintain. So we did it for simplicity. The goal really is if you've got DataHub and you want one less thing to run and manage, you can now add on Iceberg catalog capabilities to it, and it makes your life simpler. So what's the architecture like and how's the setup? First of all, it's very simple configuration. You get a DataHub Iceberg CLI command, use it to create a warehouse, set up credentials, and then provision access through the DataHub interface. So give access to your users, roles, whatever you want to do with DataHub. There's some additional privileges that will be available that support data read and write, etc. Once you've done that, you can enjoy the architecture. The architecture is very simple. We've built it as a monolith that handles everything from discovery to governance with integration with all your tools and adds on the Iceberg capabilities. But like everything nice about DataHub, there's always a change stream, which means you can also compose it. You can have a DataHub instance that's dedicated to Iceberg, and you can have a DataHub instance that's downstream of it, that's for your business users. And maybe you can even enable read access to your Iceberg dataset from that. The world is your oyster. You can kind of combine these things in whichever way that suits your deployment architecture. And here's what it looks like in action. Pretty boring. You stand it up, you start running your compute, and Iceberg tables just show up right when they get created. So it's pretty simple. You can get your Iceberg table in the catalog right then. You can see when it was last updated. We even get table stats out of the box. So that's pretty cool. And so it gives you discovery, observability, and governance for your Iceberg tables right there. So you might be wondering, is this all smoke and mirrors? Is it actually happening? Yes, it is. In fact, we merged the PR last night. And so it's part of the preview release available today, and it's part of the release candidate that's getting cut. And the features are very simple. We've got full support for v1.6 Iceberg spec, read and write capabilities, CRUD operations on namespaces. We did some performance testing. We'll do more. So far, we're seeing that we're matching the Hadoop catalog that ships as part of the Iceberg repo pretty well. There's some current limitations, of course. We are not deleting data on table drops yet. We're still working on GCP and Azure support. And looking ahead, in terms of the roadmap, we're focusing on, of course, hardening the system, implementing a few things that we've missed in this first round, namespace permissioning, and of course, evolving alongside the Iceberg spec. And more than anything, we're excited to build this with you, and we can't wait to see what you'll build with it.
Awesome. Thanks, Shashanka. With that, let's talk a little bit about availability for the 1.0 release and all the great things we just covered. DataHub 1.0 is already available as a preview beta version via DataHub Docker Quick Start so that you can start trying it out and giving us feedback. We'll be aiming to make it publicly available as a prod release on Feb 28th. So please do check it out, give us feedback before that date, and hopefully we can squash all the bugs that people find. We've created a special GitHub issue template that allows you to report issues specifically on the 1.0 release. So we really encourage people to use that to report any issues between now and then. And finally, we're going to be extending the office hours for all of February to 60 minutes so that we can help folks migrate from the existing DataHub versions up to the 1.0 release. So please do swing by and we'll be happy to walk you through the process. With that, I want to change gears and start to give you a preview of where we're going in 2025, because as Shashanka said earlier, we're just getting started. And before we do, I just want to step back and give you a sense for what makes DataHub unique. At DataHub, we start by building what we call the metadata graph, which is a high-fidelity picture of the people, the data, the queries and code, and the relationships between them. We believe that if we build this graph in a high-fidelity way, we can layer on those use cases on top: data discovery, data governance, and data observability. So as we walk through the roadmap, we're just going to go through each section of this diagram and talk about projects for each area. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Maggie to walk us through the discovery section of the roadmap.
Amazing. Thank you, John. I got to say, that's a tough act to follow, but we have some pretty exciting stuff teed up for 2025. So we're going to start with discovery. So there's three different kind of areas of focus for data discovery that we'll be tackling in 2025. First is human-centered insights. So making sure that we're capturing human kind of generated context around data. Next is intelligent exploration. So during that discovery process, we want to make sure that we're surfacing up the most robust context to really drive and kind of streamline that navigation and discovery. And then, of course, we've already seen kind of screenshots of our end-to-end lineage. We're continuing to invest in the usability and kind of applicability of lineage. So what does that look like? We will continue to invest our integration focus on dashboarding and analytics tools. Of course, we're always going to be investing in additional data stores and data lakes. And then as Shashanka was talking about, we will be turning a lot of our focus towards kind of AI and ML tooling as well. One thing that we've heard plenty from the community, or there's plenty of demand from the community, is the support for a metrics catalog. So what this means is that you'll be able to come in and register, associate, and document key metrics right next to your data assets within DataHub. On the lineage side of things, we are going to be introducing hierarchical lineage, so allowing folks to really zoom out from the micro and look at it at a more macro level, or so it could be platform to platform, or maybe you actually want to start looking at lineage between domains, data products, etc. So really just making sure that those complex lineage graphs get easier and easier to digest and navigate. One area that these are a few areas where we are looking for additional feedback from the community before we commit to building these things out. So we encourage you to head over to our feature request portal and give us feedback on a few different areas for discovery. So data exploration within DataHub, discussions and announcements within DataHub so that you kind of drive the collaborative use cases, and then additional data sources for ingestion. On the governance side of things, we have three areas of focus here. So first is universal data registry. So visibility into every data set, model, data transformation, and dashboard. We want to continue to make sure that we're giving all of that deep visibility into those assets. Centralized compliance, so making sure that DataHub is well situated to be that central source of truth of compliance around, so that could be tracking ownership, documented purpose for GDPR, PII or sensitivity classification, et cetera. And lastly, policy enforcement. So you've done the hard work to do all that classification. Let's actually enforce those policies in the source. So what this looks like in DataHub is support for logical data sets or kind of parent-child assets. So more often than not, you may have a logical data model that's deployed in various systems. The idea here is that you'll define it once and then apply that to, or apply all that rich context around, the documentation, tagging, annotation, kind of propagate that out to where it's actually physically stored. Of course, that's within DataHub, but what about outside of DataHub? We'll be expanding our DataHub Actions framework to allow support for propagating tags, glossary terms, et cetera, from DataHub back to those source systems. So this is going to streamline processes around having tag-based policy. So you define it centrally within DataHub. The Actions framework will take care of actually publishing that back and enforcing that within the source system. A few different areas where we're looking for feedback and governance is around metadata completion analytics. So kind of use cases around tracking and understanding the completion of your metadata over time. And then glossary synonyms. So kind of linking together similar data set, or similar glossary terms to really build out that knowledge graph there. For the next section, I'm going to hand it back over to John.
Awesome. And on the observability track, we'll be focused on 3 things. The first is making data quality more accessible to everyone inside the organization, not just the data engineers. Making it more collaborative, again, so that everyone can be involved in tracking, communicating, resolving data quality incidents in kind of the public town square. And then finally, making data quality more contextual. So adding the rich business context that we already capture in DataHub, like domains and documentation and ownership, with the data quality. So the first thing we're going to work on concretely is a redesign of the assertions experience, allowing users to easily search, filter, group their data quality assertions. We're also going to provide rich historical context so that you can understand every single run of an assertion along with its runtime context. The next thing we'll focus on is incidents. So specifically adding more context around the existing incidents feature, adding things like incident priorities, incident stages, so you can track it as it moves from detection to resolution, incident assignees, so you know who's responsible for an incident, and the ability to view incident activity over time. Finally, we're going to work on asset and column statistics so that you can understand the key table stats, its usage patterns, its change history when it's inserted into or updated, at a glance. So some other projects we considered on this track are custom asset metrics, where you can report and view custom quality metrics for an asset. Integrations with existing observability tools like Soda, Anomalo, and more. And then PagerDuty integration, so you can kind of integrate DataHub incidents into your other incident management workflows. And we'd be hoping to achieve that, again, using the DataHub Actions framework. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the platform layer, so things that benefit each one of these verticals. And our key focuses there for the year will be first and foremost on the developer experience, APIs and SDKs to make it really easy to register and find metadata using DataHub via API. The second is around quality of service, so making sure that the user experience is not compromised, even in the presence of super heavy ingestion jobs, for example. And then finally, audit logging and tracing, so that you understand what key operations are happening on DataHub and key user activity events as well. I'm just going to talk about 2 particularly impactful projects for the year on this roadmap, starting with the second version of the Python SDK. So we've gotten a lot of feedback on our first version of the SDK, and one of the things we've really heard is that people want higher level APIs for registering, for enriching, and retrieving data assets. And that's really what we intend to do with the second version of the Python SDK, so reducing time to value for developers. And the second thing I'll mention is around service accounts. So we know that DataHub has become critical for programmatic workflows and custom automations across many organizations. So we're going to give you the ability to easily create, manage service accounts through DataHub's UI that are useful for these types of programmatic workflows. All right, I'm going to pass it back to Maggie, the final time, the final handoff for this
Final
section.
handoff.
I promise. Thanks.
Thanks, John. So we talked a lot about the product, right? We talked a lot about the what's happening within our current development and what's to come. But let's take a second to celebrate the humans who are part of this. So I joined the DataHub community back in 2020. I think I was like the 68th person in the Slack. And now we're at over 12,500 people in DataHub Slack. I can't frankly wrap my head around that. It's truly remarkable to just kind of see and witness firsthand the growth and the vibrancy of this community. If you're not in there already, I highly recommend joining us. There's over the past 5 years, we've sent over 300,000 messages to each other. There's always a conversation happening. People are jumping in to help each other out, brainstorming best practices, etc. On the more virtual side of things, DataHub was open back in 2020. We were doing a lot of Zooms in 2020, if you remember. And since that time, we've had over 4,000 people join us for those sessions. So if that's you, well, that is you now. But thank you so much for joining us and participating there. It really just helps it really just is a very vibrant and collaborative community. On the code side of things, we've had nearly 600 people contribute to this project over the past 5 years. And so if you're thinking that this is all, Acrel data, it is not. It is folks that are coming from company or contributing from companies like Netflix, like Pinterest, it is just incredible. And here are some of the wonderful folks who have contributed just in the past year. I quite frankly couldn't fit more, I ran out of time to get more put together because there's so many wonderful and amazing humans continuing to help us push this forward. Last, but certainly not least, I want to give a special shout out to our DataHub Champions. These are folks that meet with us on a regular basis, provide us feedback about how things are working within the community, kind of health of the project, the contribution experience. They're helping us amplify the community and the project. We are really so deeply grateful for you all. So big round of applause for our champions. So one last thing, you may have noticed a little cutie patootie otter hanging in our backgrounds. So we decided to celebrate our 5th year. DataHub needed a buddy. DataHub needed a friend. So we're excited to introduce you to Otto the otter. And you might be wondering, why an otter? Well, first of all, they're very cute, but otters are deeply collaborative and community-focused animals. They're very resilient while navigating streams. Get it? Streams of data. And they're whip smart and, like I said, deeply collaborative. So welcome, Otter, our celebratory mascot. And I don't know, y'all, congrats on 1.0. Excited about 1.0, excited about 2025. And like I said, so deeply grateful for this tremendous community that has come together over the past 5 years. Rose, I think I'll hand it back to you.
Awesome. I'm excited about Otto too, as you can see on my background. Anyway, thank you both for sharing more about DataHub 1.0, thanking the community and bringing them in to be a part of this. And we have a very special guest to bring on next, the CTO of Foursquare, Vikram. So I'm going to hand it over to you and Shashanka.
All right, if you thought this was the last time you heard Shashanka speak today, unfortunately, no. I get to round out this amazing day by having a quick fireside chat with Vikram, who's a CTO of Foursquare, and I wanted to discuss with them their fascinating journey from a fragmented data platform to what they're calling a control plane approach. So Vikram, if you're here, yep, I see you. Perfect. So thanks for joining us today and thanks for taking time out of your busy day.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Shashanka. Glad to be here.
Cool. Your recent blog post really resonated with many of us in the community. We often talk about DataHub as a control plane for data. So it was very cool to see you kind of describe it in similar ways. So before we dive in, could you tell us a little bit about your path into data? When did you first start working with data? What were your first impressions about the practice of data?
Yeah, I mean, I only got exposed to the big data world about 3 years ago when I joined Foursquare as an engineer. And prior to that, I was with Amazon for 15 years. I worked mostly in the online systems. I was the founding engineer of Alexa, built like communication protocols, developer SDKs, and all that stuff. So the big data systems were completely a new realm for me. And one of the things I noted was like, or at least my first impression was that some of the things you take for granted in a software world are not obvious in the data world. Like simple things like you don't make copies of the software, you promote reuse through libraries, or you track dependencies. So in the data world, we keep creating copies and then we don't track lineage properly, right? Like, and some of these things seem, I mean, in retrospect seem obvious, but they're not always implemented in the right way in most companies, right? Like, and yeah, so that's, and also the other part is like the ecosystem is very fragmented. There are 10 different tools doing the same thing with a slight different flavor, and there are no standards for connecting all of them, right? Like, so that was my first impression, please.
Super interesting. Very similar to how I felt when I moved from quote unquote online stuff to offline stuff at LinkedIn, actually. So very similar reactions and maybe very similar thoughts around how to simplify it. So before we dive into the blog, maybe give us a quick overview of the scale and complexity of data that Foursquare deals with.
Yeah, and Foursquare, I think most people know as the consumer app which popularized check-ins, but we have been, we've transformed into a B2B SaaS company. Our primary expertise is in bridging the gap between the digital and the physical realms. We do that through our understanding of the real world, which is through places data sets, behavior of humans in the real world, like visitation patterns, purchase patterns, and we have ad tech products which help companies deal with understand the real world impact of their ads, right? Like whether they're driving foot traffic or transactions. What that means from a data perspective is like we are processing billions of place records, billions of impressions, ad impressions, billions of transactions every day, process them through, run them through several models, and to power our various product lines.
And it looks like you had quite a bit of fragmentation as a result. So you were dealing with quite a complex ecosystem, multiple meta stores, diverse orchestration systems, various compute engines. So what was the tipping point that made you realize, okay, something needed to change?
Yeah, I mean, I think in Foursquare's journey, we also acquired a bunch of companies along the way, and each company had a different philosophy to data. So we had multiple meta stores, as you've seen, like multiple orchestration systems. We were on Luigi, some parts of our company was on Airflow, some parts of our company were on homegrown systems. So there was a lot of fragmentation, but the bigger thing that drove us to take a step back and think about like how do we re-architect this system was around every once in a while we have this cost efficiency drive to eliminate like data sets that were not in use, or we were not making the best use of the data we were acquiring across our data that is generated by teams across other teams because of a lack of good discovery. So those were, these all resulted in different ways, right? Like you slow down the release.
Those were kind of the business impacts of all of this fragmentation that you noticed.
Yeah, I mean, those slowed down the release cycles, then it ultimately hindered developer productivity and our ability to ship things faster, right? Like that's how, that was the tipping point.
I'm sure those challenges resonate with many in the audience. I'm particularly intrigued by a section in your post where you talked about your vision for the ideal developer journey. You know, could you walk us through how you approached this reimagining?
So, as I said, like I still think that like there's a lot to learn in the data ecosystem. But when we first started trying to figure out how to solve this problem, we started by documenting what we want our ideal developer journey to be. Like we want, as soon as the data is ingested, it shows up in some catalog, right? Like, and then people using that data should be able to discover them, get access to them with the right level of access control. And then when they publish, create derivative data sets by creating data pipelines. That derivative data sets should show up with the right lineage tracking and we should be able to share those data set across different teams, and also have this differentiated between what is an intermediate data set that is part of the processing pipeline versus something that can be shared or reused by others. And then
that's where DataHub came into the picture, I guess, right? As you kind of looked at everything.
Yeah, so we did a extensive RFP, I guess. Like we worked with the different various vendors, and then finally zeroed in on DataHub. And the primary reason that drove our decision around DataHub was the flexible meta model, is what I could say, or the metadata conceptual object model, which allowed this pluggability of different things into the system. And then we are in the geospatial domain, so we cannot lock ourselves into a single platform. There are always different tools that are coming up. So the flexibility of plugging in different compute engines and other things were very important to us. And DataHub seemed like the only offering that provided that flexibility. The other options were more in terms of a walled garden kind of an environment, right? Like I think there are some progress since then on some of those offerings as well, but I think DataHub clearly is the leader in that space.
Well, we're very glad to have you as a customer, and it's been honestly a great partnership as well over the years. One of the things that I found very interesting in how you've organized your metadata is that you've done it in a very structured way. A lot of companies start with a very reactive approach where they're just connecting up to everything and then just get it all in first, and then they start figuring out how to simplify things and how to organize things. But I noticed that when the Foursquare team onboarded onto DataHub Cloud, they were like a lot more organized and a lot more structured. So can you tell a little bit about how you approached that structured metadata problem and how you made it sustainable? Because that's something people worry about.
So I mean, it's not by accident. I think we experimented a lot with the open source DataHub, like by just pulling in data into different sources. One of the challenges that with that approach had been that you have to continuously curate to make sure all the links are maintained. So our approach that we started with is like, how do we make it as close to the source of truth as possible? And we internally aligned on Airflow as our orchestration system. So any data pipeline built on Airflow will automatically emit these events into DataHub that create that lineage records and all that stuff. And the other thing is also we came up with, so when you look at data, we are also distributing that data into different locations. Like we have it on S3, we have some of it in our specialized warehouses. How do you track those copies as well, right? Like, so we wanted to capture some of those as first-class citizens within the data model, so that like when I'm looking at a data set, I can also understand that like, here are 3 versions that exist. They're all the same data. They're just situated in different locations. And then you can track the dependency, downstream dependencies corresponding to those.
That's super cool to watch, actually, as you've kind of onboarded on the platform. So as we kind of wrap up how you're thinking about your next few steps on DataHub, what's kind of next on your data evolution journey?
I think there are 2 big things I would say. One is like we have, in partnership with DataHub, also piloted some fine-grained access control mechanisms on top of the data, so that like people don't have to wrangle with like IAM hell in AWS and all that. They just get access to the data set and use that in their pipelines and all that. But the other thing is like one interesting thing we are working on is like, how do we bring this notion of lineage and the metadata tracking to the broader geospatial domain? And we're working on some initiatives related to that. So that's what I'm most excited about.
I've noticed you guys have been really at the bleeding edge of innovation lately, like a lot of great announcements coming from the Foursquare team. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what you have cooking for us on the geospatial data domain. This has been incredibly insightful, Vikram. Maybe one final question, perhaps putting on my audience hat. If I'm an organization that's kind of just accumulated a lot of craft, or maybe I'm just starting today and I want to have a journey towards a more cohesive data platform, you know, what are the pieces of advice that you would give folks that are in your shoes?
I mean, I think every organization is different, but one thing that has worked for us, because it may seem like a lot when you look at like this data lake with sprawling data and all that. what is the first customer experience or the developer experience you would want to fix, and how do you do that in a sustainable way, is what led to our adoption of DataHub. And that's what I would recommend anyone doing.
Well, thank you, Vikram, for sharing all these valuable insights from Foursquare's journey. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions in the chat about this. For folks who are interested in reading this blog post that I'm talking about, please check it out. I'm sure our team is going to drop in a link to that as well. It is phenomenal, and it's actually a one-part blog out of a multi-part series that Vikram has authored. And I think it's a great way to look at how to approach data strategy for modern data teams that are trying to apply software development principles to doing data right. So thank you so much, Vikram, for spending time with us, and hopefully this was great for the audience as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Back to you, Rose.
All right, very exciting. And thank you very much, Vikram. It's been great to have you here. So we have a few things just to share here at the very end. One thing that I know Shashanka already mentioned is this free DataHub health check. So Shashanka, was there anything else you wanted to say about this?
No, it's basically what it says. Take a picture of the QR code. It's our attempt to help you with your DataHub deployment. So if you're stuck somewhere, if you've got questions about, is my system set up the right way? Am I giving Elasticsearch the right amount of memory? Did I use the wrong instance type to set up my DataHub? We're here to help. We try our best using office hours, but this is Acryl's way of kind of dedicating more resources towards making you successful with your DataHub installation and deployment. So take our help. The QR code hopefully lands you to a form where you can just add in your details, and we will figure out next steps. And we'll talk about obviously technical infrastructure assessments, but also if you have other business questions around rolling out the catalog and the DataHub platform, we're happy to help in whatever way, shape, or form you need it.
Excellent. Okay, we've got a few more things to share. So I mentioned earlier that there would be swag. Here's what to expect. We wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us here today. So we have arranged for this to happen. You will receive an email sometime in the near future that has a link that you can click on in order to redeem your swag for the DataHub 5th birthday. All you'll have to do is click on the link, fill out your shipping information, and then we will send it your way. And it will include this fabulous t-shirt featuring Otto, a little sticker sheet with a couple of stickers if you like to decorate your laptops or other things like that. And then also a beanie, since we're in the middle of a bunch of Arctic blasts, seemed like a good idea to send you a hat. So keep an eye out for that email. Also, another announcement, we're working on something pretty cool here, certification workshops. So if you're into technical learning and you want to get best practices on how to set up DataHub, how to get the most out of it in a learning type of environment, stay tuned for more information about these. They will be launching this spring. And then last but not least, if you're not yet part of the Slack community, we would encourage you to join. It's a great place for you to just find answers to questions, connect with other people in the space, and learn more about the other things that you can become involved in, like the Champions program, or attending office hours, or find out about job postings and things like that. So,
and talking about job postings, Acryl is hiring.
Yes.
As you saw before, a lot of our most valuable employees or our best engineers have come from the community. And so if you're part of the community and you're thinking about what's next for you and you love DataHub, join us. We have a bunch of openings that are listed on our website. Just message us and get in touch with us.
Yep. And I think we'll wrap it up there for the day. So thanks again for joining. We hope you are as excited about DataHub 1.0 as we are, and we look forward to keeping in touch. Thank you very much.